There we go. Hi, Nickens. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Great. I have my colleague Sandra here. Hi.
Hello, and I'm not seeing you. So
Good afternoon.
hello, hello. I think because I had, hi, Nicken, how are you? Nickens, how are you?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I was on two screens and that really wasn't working. So
No
thank
worries.
you for coming in to meet with our, hopefully, majority graduate students, but we never know. We could have some undergrad, but
Mhm.
social work in particular, and they could be at different uh, points in the program. So we have part time to full time. So when we have certificates, and we have a lot of interest in hospital and healthcare. So hopefully, if they're hanging out, we can get going. Do we have?
I'll start
Oh,
letting them in right now.
great,
Perfect.
great, great.
Perfect. Well, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, I
Thank you for
appreciate
joining us. We really appreciate it.
it.
No, we do.
Yeah.
We do. Hello to everyone. We may have people in and out, and we kind of try to stop at the 50-minute for those who have classes at 3. But thank you for coming in today. And Nickens Fleurima is
Mhm.
here with us today from Boston Medical Center from the HR side of things, talent acquisition, and we are thrilled to have him with us. And he has worked already with Stephanie, the partner in all of this with the Career Education Center, and myself, Sandra Despai, and I am with the School of Social Work. So we do this, the series of employer chats with the mindset of trying to get a sense of who you are as an organization, outside of what students may go out on the website. They can find out everything they want about you on the website, but we're really looking to get a sense of culture, get a sense of the inside out, and allow for students to ask questions and for you to be able to kind of give us the setup of the organization and where you see social work opportunities throughout the organization, especially in this grouping. For it looks like we are all here as their graduate students who some may be graduating in May or somewhere in the series. We just so that you know, Nickens, we have certificate programs on top of our MSW degree, and so we have a healthcare certificate, and so some of the students here may represent that as a track as well as a trauma certificate. We have a school licensure, which is different than a certificate. It's really a school adjustment and social work degree. And that is all within the suite of our MSW program. We also have BSW's, a bachelor level social work program. We have PhD and we have a DSW. So we have the full complement of social work possibilities and credentials within our house. So at any point, any of those could be here. And we have online and we have on ground. So we're not sure who's from where, but with that, welcome. And for those who can turn on your camera, feel free to do so. And have your questions ready as Nickens begins to tell us a bit about Boston Medical.
Yeah. So I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate everyone being here to speak with me. And with Boston Medical, like with any other major medical facility or a smaller location, there's always a distinct mission that goes on. And with BMC, it's like any other hospital, we're community driven. But it's Boston Medical Center. What drew me to Boston Medical Center in the first place is that it's in an odd location in Boston. It's not in the Huntington corridor. You have like all the major hospitals and all the medical schools, and it's not in downtown like MGH. It's right in where how do I say, like the metropolitan area, the suburb side of it clashes with the inner city. And if you're familiar with it, there's a lot that goes on. It's like one of the nicest areas in Boston, and there's some parts of it that are not so nice because there's so much that goes on with crime in Dorchester, Roxbury, that Boston Medical Center is typically the closest hospital to everything that's going on. And then there's like as you guys probably know, there's a lot of drug users in and near BMC. There's shelters nearby, and then there's a lot of people coming to and from Boston Medical Center every day, and they all have the same point of view on it. We're here to help. We're here to make this a better community, and social work is a big part of it because uh, we just opened up a behavioral health center out in Brockton, Mass. Too. So it's not just obviously it's Boston Medical Center, but it's not just only Boston that they have an impact in. So they opened a behavioral health center in Brockton, Mass, and we're currently, we're looking for social workers. Like we need them. And in the main hospital, the main health center, there's never a shortage of a necessity for social work because, as I mentioned, with all that's going on in and around Boston Medical Center, we do need folks who are experienced with like behavioral health, psychology, and things of that nature because a lot of our patients, part of their rehabilitation isn't just seeing a nurse and seeing a doctor. A lot of it is mental. A lot of it is their lifestyle needs some sort of improvement. And that's where somebody in social work comes in, whether they have a master, a doctorate, or even a bachelor's. We're definitely looking for folks who can help our patients within the community of Boston and also surrounding areas because we have satellite locations in several other areas. But the one that definitely comes to mind is Brockton because it's literally a behavioral health center. And I don't know if a ton of you are familiar with Brockton, but it's also an area that's very nice, but there's also a lot that goes on there as well. So when I was talking to the head of campus recruiting and the director of TA, and we were just discussing like why Brockton, and they were like it's probably outside of Boston in like Worcester, Springfield. It's one of the more densely populated areas where a lot goes on, and it needed a center from Boston Medical BMC. So
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And so for those that may not be Boston natives, so yeah, reiterate that Boston Medical Center is an urban hospital that doesn't sit necessarily in the Longwood Suites or by Mass General. However, it's a community hospital that serves. It's the #1 trauma center in the area. It's and I'll speak to it as being a field faculty for the assigned there for many moons prior to doing this role. So lots of programs sit at Boston Medical Center that may or may not be a part of the center, the hospital. So there's a lot of programming there that, of course, that social work helps to support and in many cases drive at all levels. So it's urban, and I guess it used to be the old city hospital of Boston, and it's affiliated with Boston BU, and it's grown into this urban and suburban mix is, I guess, what we would say, how the South End has shaped and reshaped itself. So Brockton being the latest satellite center of BMC that is dedicated to behavioral health, and what kind of support, what does it look like for a new graduate to apply first to seek a position and then to apply? And I know that a lot of organizations are hungry for social workers, but talk a little bit about what the process may look like for them as they start to consider this type of setting.
Yeah, so the process is obviously it's Boston Medical Center. It's a major hospital, but we're very straightforward with like our requirements. For most of our new graduate positions across several different majors, we typically ask for a resume, and a couple letters of references. With the medical field, it's typically nurses that have preceptorship. So we typically ask for letters of recommendation from their preceptors or clinical instructors. But with like social work in particular, it's more or less letters of recommendation that just speak to the character of the student or that's applying. And it usually from like either your professor, it could be from someone in career services, but obviously anything from your instructors that have a background in social work will definitely help your application more than anything. And as far as support goes, we're a hospital that prides ourselves on training because and another thing that caught my attention when I was applying to Boston Medical Center a while back was that they're magnet recognized. So I wasn't really like too educated on it on what magnet recognized is up until because I used to work at MGH and also at Dana-Farber Cancer Center, and I had a conversation a few years ago about like what does it mean, and essentially in order for a hospital to be magnet recognized to get to that status, you have to be big on training in every single department, because it's not just you have a great ED or you have a great neurosurgery department or you have a great social work department, but all the other departments are lacking. Boston Medical Center it's big on training employees, because folks we bring in, whether it's new employees or experienced employees, we want to make sure they get involved with the culture. And part of that is like we're heavy on mentorship, we're heavy on answering questions. And since I've been here, like I'm a very curious person. When I don't know something, I have no problem asking a question to my somebody who's a superior. And people here have no issues telling you, sorry, sorry, they have no issues telling you this is how you go about it, or this is a better way of doing it. And it's when you look around, everybody is great at what they do, and part of that is the support and the training that they get from their respective departments. And what I like about it too is even if because it's 5,000, like over 5,000 of us working here, I don't know everybody. But if I'm in a building where I'm not usually at, because with what I do in talent acquisition, I'm usually going out to other locations. I'm going to other parts of the campus that I haven't been at before. What's big for me is if I can ask somebody I don't know for directions, and I'm not getting attitude for it. Because as you know, living in Massachusetts, you could be outside, you could ask somebody like, oh, how do I get to XYZ street? And because they're having whatever kind of day, they're giving you attitude about it. Oh, won't you just Google it? I'm like, you know what I'm saying? But with BMC, what I like about it is the culture. Everyone's very like involved. I mean, obviously, it's like not everyone's worried about being super buddy, but everyone's very open. Everyone's approachable. And whatever it is that you need, if you have to reach out to somebody in the department that you've never spoken with before, they have no problem being a resource for you. And our new employees, they thrive in this kind of environment.
Mm-hmm. That's great to hear. Great to hear. Since this is a conversation and I don't want to be the only one in the conversation with Nickens, I open it up to those who are here listening and to those on screen to feel free to put questions out to Nickens that you are curious about. I know that we will ultimately go down certain paths that I don't know if you'll have the answer for, but I do want to make sure that we get them on the table. But I want folks to speak up first, and then I'll round out whatever I think you missed.
Hi, Sandra. I have a question, actually. I'm sorry. I had my hand raised. So there was a question in the chat from one of our students. They actually had a question regarding internships. Some of our students are, not graduating just yet, but they had a question regarding how they could go about getting internships, or if BMC actually offers internships for their students, and how they would go about getting more information about them or applying for internships for those who are getting certifications.
So off the top of my head, I don't know for sure if they offer internships. Primarily, so my background on the talent acquisition team is I primarily hire for new graduate nurse residencies, and I support other teams such as public health, social work. But as far as applying, the best place to go is bmc.org. On the job page, there's about 39 pages of positions that are available. And I will take note of this though, as far as the social work internships, because I'll reach out to a team member who focuses on social work and
Okay,
like on a day-to-day basis and see what they have to say about that.
I'll add, Nickens, that if that was a question from a social work student, which I couldn't see, nothing came up in my chat here, but
it was directly towards me. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I didn't get it either.
Sorry, it was just for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
if that was a social work student, do you know if it was?
Yes, it was about a certificate because they have a year and a half left, so they just wanted to make sure that they were in the correct chat. They were just in the correct place today.
They have a health, are they in the MSW healthcare certificate? Is that what they're
Yes,
saying?
MSW level certificate program, and they have a year and a half left. So they wanted to make sure if they were able to, still come to this chat.
Oh, yep, you're welcome to be in the chat. However, Nickens doesn't have to really do much on his end around field education. We call it field education in social work school. And so for the master's degree, there's a 2-year practicum, similar to nursing, but we have a 2-year, year-long practicum requirement. So they're 3 days a week, they're out at an agency doing what we're calling an internship. That's how they have so many clinical hours each year. They have a generalist year and a specialized year in their second or third year if they're part-time. So there's certain relationships that each of these facilities, including BMC, has with the field education department. And so we have a placement, a time frame for the placement process to happen. And when each student gets to that point in the program, they meet with a field faculty person, and then with their resume and their application and the whole process around it. And they are, if healthcare is their interest, there's no guarantee that there's a year 1 placement. Usually the field internships go by your needs and most of the time it's like you need year 2 for hospital settings, but there could be a lot of opportunity at BMC for year 1 as well. I just don't know. It changes each year. So through the field education, all of that to say is through the field education department, there'll be a connection to BMC, and depending on which programs are actually looking for interns. And your resume gets sent over directly to that licensed social worker on the BMC side or to the team pool, et cetera, and then they make a selection. It all happens at the same time every year. So it'll kick off for year 2 placements, like right when they come back from the winter break.
Yes, I'm pretty sure there has to be some sort of social work internship set up, because when I post jobs to Handshake as well, I see like there's a lot of departments that have research programs set up that wouldn't really work without like some type of social work or research intern.
Yeah, it's multiple. There's a bunch of contacts. I don't know if there used to be an effort to have one contact that then kind of worked with HR maybe and disseminated throughout the hospital. But more recently, there were just different departments, different services that you had go-to people. And we have an affiliation with you as a entity, the field ed in Simmons. So I know there's plenty of internship opportunities, but it does vary by year. So, but if you find a single point of contact that makes it easier, we will gladly give you the field education director for the program so that they have a very, just a direct connection after we get off. Lillian, I'm sorry you've been, sorry, go ahead, Nickens. Wait 1 second. Lillian, you're next as soon as I round out this one. Are you set, Nickens?
Oh yeah, I'm set. I was just taking note of what you said. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I'll let you know the field education director is the contact info.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people. I think what happened is if it was one point of contact, they may have got like overwhelmed because just when I came in, there was someone here for like university relations, and
Right.
he was working with like all the major hospitals, and it's one thing where when you're working with one major, such as like if I'm working with Simmons for nursing, and I'm working with like MCPHS for nursing, and now I have to tap into all the other majors. You do need some sort of support, and you know. So, but we've one thing I like about BMC as well, where they're always hiring based on the needs of the relationships that need to be maintained with the company and other schools, so to say. So I'm pretty sure there's a point person for it, and I'll have it for you guys.
Okay,
As
that's
soon as we
great. That's great. We'll do our exchange. No
Yes.
worries.
Hey Lillian, how's it going?
Yes, go for it.
Hi. So I have a couple questions here. My first question, I guess I'll lead with, is during the hiring process, right post-grad, what are you looking for with experience and licensing? So I'll be graduating in December. I went straight from my bachelor's to my master's. So I don't have a ton of experience, and I'm not licensed yet, obviously. So what does that look like with the hiring? Do they hire before licensed? That's kind of my question.
This is actually a question I get a lot, because it's like, you go to school, get your bachelor's, and then you go get your master's, and you start applying to positions, and the companies are telling you the same thing. Well, you have all this education, but you don't have any experience. So we can't really, there's not much we can really do. With social work specifically, it's not as complicated as like other positions in the medical field, because I know we ran into this so much with nursing that's kind of how like the position I'm in came to be, because a lot of nurses had applied after they got the BSN, MSN, ASN, and they couldn't get into a regular staff nurse position because they didn't have like they had the clinical training, but they didn't have the hospital setting experience. So with social work, it's there's not really a ton of like, as far as I know, there's not like a new grad experience set up where you have to be in it like for 2-3 years. It is easier to kind of get your foot in the door, especially based on what your experience is with your school, with your course load. So it depends on what you're applying for. Because say if you're applying for a senior position, I really don't. It doesn't matter how much education you have. It's a senior position that requires like a ton of experience. But if it's more of a position that's in line with like your education level, you shouldn't have too much trouble getting in the door, interviewing for it, and potentially getting the position.
Great, Nikki. So just to follow up on Lillian, so hopefully, as they go out to look at open positions, they should see positions that say LCSW eligible candidates can apply, and that's really what these students that are graduating May, December, new grads. They're going to be they'll have their master's degree, MSW, but they will be for those in Massachusetts that are here, they'll be LCSW eligible, and they just need to know that they can find a hiring body, a manager team who has the LICSW, so the independent license that they can hopefully potentially work under for the 2 years, so that they then can be eligible to sit for that exam as well. And so this is just a little two-step process, but as long as that they know that there's positions that are LCSW eligible positions, that allows them to understand that yes, you're ready to apply for this service, this role that may be there. Continue, Lillian. Go ahead.
That was really helpful. So I had another question that was what titles to look for, like when we're searching online. So is LCSW would be like direct post-grad titles. And then what was the supervision title you had said? Because to work toward the LCSW.
So you just like with your field practicum, you need to work under the supervision of an LICSW, so a licensed independent as clinical social worker, to allow you to become eligible, which takes in so many hours of that, which equates to about 2 years under that guidance. That then makes you eligible to sit for the LI, for the same license exam in Massachusetts. So you'll have 2 sets of licensing, as long as nothing major changes in the profession. You'll have post-grad, you'll at your own time and pace, you will go to the state board and sit for the LCSW, find pre or post finding work. Many employers will tell you what that time frame needs to be. They'll say, we're hiring now, and you have up to the 6 months, you have up to a year to get that LCSW in place. And so sometimes they will, so that may be a question. Sometimes they will co-share that responsibility with for you and with you by contributing to the cost of getting that. So those are the kind of things that we want to make sure that you're just knowing to ask as you approach prospective employers. Okay.
And with any licensing, to build on what Sandra was saying, so you guys are, you're paying for your education, you're paying for a degree. You want to make sure within a year, whatever licensing or certifications you have to get that align with your education, you get it done within 6 months to a year. Like I know with a lot of master's programs across the board, there's always some sort of certification that you have to get after you get your master's degree. So what I would say is, don't hold off on it. Start studying as soon as you can, because you never know how the industry is going to change. Because sometimes if it's some things are grandfathered in, there might be a third license you have to get. But since you've already taken care of whatever condition was up before the change happened, you're all set when you start applying for positions.
That's great. That's good. Did you have a third, Lillian, to follow? Did that answer everything that was on your plate?
I think that answered everything, because I have been looking online and seeing hospital positions that I would want to work in, but I was having a hard time deciphering what fits with what I've experienced and my licensing or lack thereof, and kind of where I fall in the hiring process. So thank you.
Great.
No
Great.
problem.
So now we see another question in the chat. Thank you, Stephanie. And it's related to, what are the benefits? Can you speak a little bit about the benefits? And I'm sure we're going to want to know, if you can, what a range, what a compensation, what does that look like fully for new grad social worker applying?
New grad social workers, as far as compensation, I'd want to get a more direct and comprehensive number. So I don't know off the top of my head, because there's a lot of positions that that are up on our site. So I'd have to see which ones are LCSW friendly, before answering that. But I can't say this. We're a very competitive hospital, and part of that reason is because we hire the best talent we can, and we make sure they're taken care of, as far as compensation is concerned.
Okay, competitive is good to hear. So I hope everyone heard that.
Yes.
And we'll get a target or something, maybe after a range, just a range. You don't need a particular number, just a range. But also benefits. What type of benefits could someone expect if they were hired at BMC?
So benefits wise, it's well, just hospitals in general, benefits are great. With Boston Medical, we have some of the best insurance. It's Harvard Pilgrim, I believe. And then a question I typically get a lot about is parking in the area, because it's not close to any trains or whatever the case may be. But there's not, I can answer this because I'm sure it's a question that's going to come up sometime during the call. There's not necessarily a parking discount working at BMC, but parking, it's not super expensive. There's a nearby garage like all the employees use. Doesn't really matter the department. It's, if you're in before 9, it's $20 for the day. And this is kind of where I get back to what we have competitive salaries, because that if you don't work remote or hybrid, $20 a day does start adding up. It's about $100 a week, $400 a month. There's folks that have been working 5 days a week for a while, and plenty of them work in social work, because social work's not one of those fields where you can work fully remote and be super effective. And I mean anything corporate related, but the garage, paying for the garage is an issue, and we also are big on employee health. We have a lot of research teams on it. I just posted one now. It's a yoga it's a yoga study that's basically surrounding like how does yoga improve mental health, and then just there's also a garden on the roof of BMC. We're big on mental health, physical health, making sure you're eating the right things, you're feeding your mind the right things, because it's when you're working at a hospital as busy as BMC, burnout is something that can happen very easily, because you're hired to work 40 hours a week, but that 40 hours in reality could easily turn into 55, 60 hours a week. So our supervisors are big on it too. They're big on making sure that, you're taking as much time off as you need. So one of the benefits of working here is whenever you need a mental health day, it's not a big issue, because they get it. You're busy, they're busy. So, and it also with there's a plethora of other benefits, but we have like an entire department dedicated to it that could speak much more detail about it than I can, because I meet with them bi-monthly, and they kind of just keep us updated on what's new with benefits, what's going on. And a lot of times it's not even bi-monthly, it's quarterly, because they always have some sort of update that keeps us up with the times. So if there's a new thing that's happening in other, not necessarily other hospitals, but other major businesses, that is a big help to employees, they're definitely in line for it. But I mean, we're not like Twitter. We're not going to give you $400 a day for food. so yeah, it's a great company to work for. And no, I haven't heard anyone complain about like the benefits, but as far as benefits in detail, a lot of the information is on our website, and then there's a point person that you can speak to about it.
Mhm. Unlike Twitter, this is an organization that's saving lives, real lives. It's social workers saving real lives.
Yeah.
So, and it's real emergencies, right? It's all hands on deck when you're a social worker in a healthcare setting, when that need is there. So, I'm sure maybe you can confirm, Nickens, that there'll be positions that are social work positions that are 9 to 5-ish, and then you'll also have that stream of positions that might be ED related, or ER related.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
all
Mhm.
shifts, right?
It's all shifts, because I mean we need, with what goes on at Boston Medical, we need social workers like 24/7 now. There's room for social workers in every department I can think of, especially ED, because of all that goes on. You need somebody, for first, second, and third shift. So it's probably the most busiest hospital I've worked at, and I've been at a few of them. But yeah, they need social workers at any point in time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what stands out? I'm reading a question now from
Yeah,
Stacy.
go ahead.
What stands out to you, or is a plus when reviewing resume of a postgraduate who isn't not able to get a lot of experience yet, for social work in particular? So I read a few dozen resumes on a daily basis, especially depending on how busy the job posting is. And what stands out to me is the bio. So I think, career services is obligated to tell you guys to make sure you're direct with your bio, you're direct with your intention of what position you're trying to get. But even if you don't have a ton of experience, you can also put in your intention. You can, so if you have like a ton of experience, like someone who's been in social work for about 20 years, your bio can be, from A to Z, about like how you've helped your clients, and how you've impacted the companies you've worked at. If you don't have a ton of experience coming out of school, what you can do is you can speak about how you plan to be impactful in the future. So when I'm reading a resume of someone who just got their bachelor's degree or someone who just got their master's degree that doesn't have much of any experience, what stands out to me is that they're speaking to me through their body, because they can't speak to me in their work history. I don't really, if you're applying for a job in social work, I'm not really too pressed about the 3 years you spent working at Subway during undergrad. That doesn't really, that just speaks to your customer service skills, but your bio specifically, that's what's gonna stick out to a recruiter or someone in talent acquisition, because that's just it kind of like shows your personality. And then when we do call, you can further iterate. Oh, well, this, I want to impact the hospital in XYZ way. I've read up on the hospital's mission, and I want to make sure I'm just a part of the community that's giving a lot of impact to whomever I'm assigned to work with, so to say.
I guess a follow-up to that would be, so since everything is probably through a portal, right, an HR portal type of thing, are there key words that in the algorithm that the social workers need to be thinking of to stand out? If it's not going to be healthcare specific, if they don't have that experience.
I wouldn't say so, because so we use Workday. So you guys coming out of school, you're gonna run into a lot of CRM, client resource management systems, and essentially Workday, whether it's Workday, ADP, Paylocity, when your application comes in, usually like when we set up a job requisition, it just comes in first come first serve. So say Emma applies today, I'll get her application. If Stacy applies 3 days from now, Stacy's application will pop in. And if I'm going through the applications a week from now, I'll start at the bottom. I'll go through Emma's application. I'll look at her resume, letters of recommendation, letter of intent, and I'll see if she's someone that's going to be a good fit to call. And if the thing to really focus on, though, as far as like the platforms, you have to focus on what the employer is asking for in terms of the documentation that they need, because a lot of times, and they also focus on the start date as well, because some positions might be starting at a time that conflicts with when you're getting your license or certification. So say if you have to go take the LCSW exam and November 30th, and the position is starting on December 5th, or if it's starting on November 20th, a lot of people will apply, even though generally there's no way of the hospital being able to hire you, because you're not going to be licensed yet for the start date of the position. So it's obviously there's a lot of excitement that comes when you're applying to positions, but just make sure you read. It's not even a fine print. Just read the basic details of what they're asking you for. And like I said, the second part of it is understand what you need to send in, what documentation you need to send in order to get a call back. Because I have a lot of candidates that reach out to me via email, or they reach out to the department and say, hey, I applied a month ago, or I applied 2 months ago, and I haven't heard anything back. It's simply because it's not that they're not qualified. It's simply because it may require 2 letters of recommendation. They sent everything and they only sent 1 letter of recommendation. So we just need to see what we need to see, because folks that work in talent acquisition, they typically try to get back to folks that aren't sending in the entire packet. But a lot of times we're very busy, we're very occupied. So you may not hear back for a while if you're not sending in everything you need to send in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that whose question is that? I think the comment from Emma speaks to what would you tell those that are graduating in May? What type of lead time do they need? Should they be looking and reading now? But I think every position, what we're hearing is every position is different, in that it depends on when the position posted and what date they're hiring for. But are you saying that March, April would make sense to start the search and application process, or should they be doing it in January?
I'd say is January, February, March is a good time to start anticipating. So if you want to apply for, if your goal is to not take like a gap year, you want to get straight to work after you graduate. What Sandra said makes a lot of sense. You need to start looking as soon as it's January, February, because what you got to understand is if you want to work at like a Boston Medical Center, whether it's Boston Medical Center, Dana-Farber Cancer Center, Brigham's, Children's Hospital, you're competing with everyone else that's going to school for the same thing you're going to school for at Huntington, outside of Boston, outside of the state, out of state. Everyone wants to come here to do social work, in particular because it's obviously it's a medical hub, it's a STEM hub, but social work in this state is big too. So you want to start looking as soon as you can, so you know exactly kind of what I just said. You know exactly what's required of you to send in to these employers when you apply, because I like it's a lot of students here. I'm sure everyone on the call is very bright. And I go through resumes every day. I see 3.5s, I see 3.7s, I see 3.99s. But when I'm seeing everyone that's very qualified on an educational level, it really just becomes first come, first serve, because as an employer, I can't start playing favorites because of this person's like ethnic background or because this person's from Boston. I can't, it's illegal for me to go about it that way. So it really sort of becomes first come, first serve when you're in an applicant pool where everyone is just as qualified as you are. So the only way to get ahead of that is by being, one of the first people in line. And the only way you're going to be one of the first people in line is by looking into the future. So January, February, start looking into different positions at different hospitals. And just by the time you graduate, you just know, okay, this is all I need to turn in. I've asked all my professors that I needed to ask for a letter of recommendation. And off the top, I would say get 3 letters of recommendation as soon as you can. Like as soon as January rolls around or February rolls around, start getting your letters of recommendation. Don't wait until after you graduate, because at that point, your professors are getting getting requests to turn in letters of recommendation from everyone else who didn't ask when they should have. So get that taken care of as soon as you can. Like you have to kind of put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's applying for the job months ahead of time. And months later, next thing you know, you're starting at Boston Medical Center.
That's a great point, Nickens. Could not have said that better, because we really do talk about that last semester in the program, wherever you are in the program right now. But that last semester is really when you want to make sure that your relationships are clear and your recommendation requests are clear, and they really are some key players that you want to do that, make that request to. Your field instructor, it doesn't hurt to do it for your year 1 and your year 2, but especially your year 2 field instructor. Your field liaison advisor, doesn't hurt to get to ask one of them. It doesn't hurt to ask any of the classroom faculty that you may have encountered throughout the experience. And it doesn't, just because you ask them for recommendation related to a job doesn't dismiss or disqualify you from coming back and asking again, because you'll need a signature from the field instructor in particular as you do your licensing application in Massachusetts. You'll need that second year field instructor. So you'll be asking a couple of times. It's okay. We're all used to it. We expect it. So the relationship aspect should be the whole 2-year journey that you're looking at, 3-year journey for some, and making sure that you grab those early. That's a great point. Any other questions from the crew that's here?
I just had one really important question, is how can our students apply or get in contact with BMC if they're interested in applying starting January, hopefully, so they can be on track with everyone else? What's the best way for them to get in contact?
So what I'll do on my end is I'll find out who's the point person for hiring as far as social work goes. What I would say is as a student, you can definitely start building a relationship with wherever you want to land as far as your career, because from asking your clinical instructors, or sorry, asking your field instructors to write you letters of recommendation is the first place to go. But one of the main objectives behind just that action is networking. So if you want to go far as you can in your career, if you want to, you want to go surpass any expectation you have now, a big part of that is it's not just what you know, because you guys are coming from Simmons. It's one of the best schools out there for social work, but it's also who you know, because you can tap in with your field instructors, you can tap in with like alumni that may work at BMC, but it's all about talking and building a relationship ahead of time. So what I'll do is I'll get the contact information, I'll send it to Stephanie, and then that we'll figure out a way for them to get in touch with any other students that do have questions about what qualifies they need to have in place to get a position at BMC at post grad. And essentially it's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door without your foot being in the door, because now you already have some sort of relationship. Because I can tell you firsthand, it's way easier for me to make a decision on hiring if I kind of already have a relationship with like the person that's coming in. So it's like I said, it's who you know. So if you're building a relationship months ahead of your graduation, you're not guaranteed a job, obviously, because you're still in competition with everyone else at these other schools. But it's another method to kind of have an advantage ahead of everyone else, because now you've already gotten in contact with the recruiter or the talent acquisition partner that's in charge of hiring for that role. Once you get in contact with this person, best advice I get everybody on call is, it's not just about an introduction, like, oh, hi, my name is Ann. Hi, my name is Stacy. Hi, my name is Lillian. Thanks for answering my 3 or 4 questions. Like, give them a phone call or try to get on the phone with them for 15-20 minutes. Really pick their brain, because a good sign of somebody who's going to be effective in what they do is, like I said in the beginning of the call, is curiosity. When you're sort of a novice, as you all are, not having a ton of experience in the social work field, when you're asking not just any question, but like the right questions, like and if people that are hiring, we're big on curiosity. We're big on understanding that, oh wow, they're asking all these questions about the job. They must be very serious about knowing what they need to do, or knowing they need to be effective to be a great employee at this medical facility. Because if you're curious and you're asking a bunch of questions, once you get to the job, a lot of the questions you're asking ahead of getting the job, you'll be asking when you get the job, if you don't ask them, if you get what I'm saying. Because like, if you go into like the field and you're not curious, you're just like, I just got this degree, I just got my license, I don't really need to talk to anybody. There's going to be situations and scenarios that you're not familiar with, that you could have learned about months ago, because you were curious, you were researching what's a tough day look like for a social worker? Why is it a tough day? Like, questions like that are what you need to ask the recruiter. And they may not have the answer for you, but they're working hand in hand with the hiring managers who have been working in social work for 20, 30, 40 years. So if anything the recruiter can't answer for you, they'll get it over to the hiring manager. They work hand in hand, and they'll get the answer for you. And then they'll also say, I got this question from Lillian. I got it from Haley. Haley Lyons, who had applied, 2 months ago, and she's still in the recruiting process. She's curious about XYZ. When the hiring manager actually meets you, when you go to your interview, they'll be like, oh, well, I'm glad you asked that question. And obviously, don't use all your questions during the recruiting phase. Save some for the interview, because once you go to the interview, hiring managers are big on sitting down and having a conversation. Kind of like how Sandra has it set up. You want to have a conversation. It's not just you're sitting down and they're asking you 15 questions, you're giving 15 answers. You need to sit there and ask the hiring manager some great questions, because that's really what gets you hired. It's not just like I gotta sit there and give them the whole spiel, and then they have nothing to say to me. So it's great when you ask questions to everybody you need to ask questions to, everyone from the recruiter to the hiring manager. And then once you get there, stay curious. That's how your career is going to grow, by staying
Right.
curious.
That's a great advice and wisdom to say, and right, and always ask about, to the extent that the time allowed, ask their story. Why are they there? How did they get there? People love to talk about the work that they do. So especially, to bringing in the pipeline of folks coming into the profession, they love to talk about what they did and why did this position keep them and why they get stuck, so to speak, in a good way in the role that they're currently in. So those are great points to make. And we are I know we're at time, but we are hoping that, we don't know if it's going to be you, Nickens, or your colleague, but Stephanie is on it, and she has a slew of employers coming into the annual spring job fair. And so this group will be readied up on how to approach. And if a BMC, if they are at one of the stalls, and understanding to take that card and what you need to do with it beyond. So this group is getting the first, first hand of it.
I'll be there though. I'll be there. So I'm part of what I do here is campus recruiting. So I'm usually traveling to different schools, and Simmons is definitely on our radar for the spring. So you'll see me and one of my other colleagues, most likely Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff is the one that's registered so far. So we will definitely see you.
Yep. I'll be there. I'll be there.
So you have a captive group of 6 who will say, "Hi, Nickens, we met in November," and so you are charged to do that, because that you're following through on some of the tips you've heard today. Emma, please go for it.
Oh, I think Emma was clapping.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying, yes, we'll say hi in the spring. No questions, no nothing.
How's it going, Emma?
Okay. Very good. That was a thank you. So Nickens, again, thank you so much for coming in with us today. We look forward to seeing you in the spring as the spring comes, and we now know you, and we will find you at the fair. So thank you for taking an hour of your day to give the overview of BMC and some of the wise recruitment advice that has been shared today. We really appreciate having you. And Stephanie, as always, partnering all of this in crime. She has pulled off yet another in this series, so I appreciate you too. Thank you. Thank you all who are attending today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.